Welcome to Global Citizen Life podcast. Today on the show, we have Mukesh, and he's on a mission to guide 15,100 people to reach financial freedom and to live a fulfilled life. Thank you, Mukesh, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for having me in the show. I'm very honored.
So let's jump into it. But how do we live a fulfilled life?
Sally, I'll take you back to where it started, and then I answer your question. So I was born in a very small town in India, and my parents were very loving, very supportive, and they gave me all the freedom that I ever needed and wanted. My dad was a franchisee of a successful logistics company, so the money was good there. And but one day, this franchisor sibling, they had a conflict, and they, decided to shut down the business, which meant my father, my family had no business, no income that day. And my father then, went to look for similar sized businesses, but he couldn't find any. So one of my uncles suggested, okay, why shouldn't we start our own company, like the logistics company itself? But they didn't realize that, and that's what they did. However, they didn't realize this company, like a franchisor side, it needed different mindset, different skill set, and the capital which my dad didn't have. This new business, had more overheads than the previous one, and therefore my father was behind paying wages some months. He had to borrow funds from from the relatives or the friends to keep the business going, and he was stuck. And that pushed my mom into the mindset of scarcity and anxiety, which was a reflection of how she was brought up with her 7 sisters in a home. And I couldn't do much, as I was working as a lost young man myself. And then one of my friend colleague, he suggested that for me to come to Australia and for a study, and maybe he thought that I'll find some more direction there. And that's what I did. My family didn't have savings, but they mortgaged a home, and here I was in Australia. I worked in restaurants to pay the bills. After completing my master's in accounting and CPA, I started my own accounting company. My clients connected with me because I understood their pain, the uncertainty, because I witnessed that with my dad and mom firsthand. So we grew, we hired more people, bigger office. We successfully solved those 3 problems. That why I started accounting company was that small and medium businesses fail within the first few years. And the people who survive and then close to the retirement, they do not have enough cash flow and funds to fund the retirement with the lifestyle. And the third was that accountants were mainly focusing on compliance and reporting rather than helping these small businesses create a successful or profitable business, because that related with my father. And I wanted to solve those 3 things. And in those first 6-7 years, we solved those problems for our clients. However, I was still unfulfilled. I was still feeling like stuck and lost, and not like, that feeling which I have now. And that's what led me that I take a pause. I invited a couple of my team members into the conference room. We spent 3 months from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday to Saturday, talking about what do we want to do, what will make us fulfilled. And when we came out of that room, those whiteboard scribble changed into a value system. Our values came up like happiness, freedom, and win-win. But that was still incomplete. It was not a complete solution still. And I kept reading, listening to podcasts, learning through thought leaders around the globe, then I found this word called serving. And that was the aha moment. And that got me out from my empty life. That led me to finding my purpose. In that realization, I found that my fulfillment is in fulfilling other people's lives, getting them unstuck, helping them find what they want to achieve, helping them overcome those roadblocks, obstacles, achieving what they want to achieve with the sense of fulfillment. So the fulfillment to me means now is practicing my values, happiness, freedom, win-win, and helping people achieve financial freedom and a fulfilled life for themselves and for their loved ones. Having a purpose which is bigger than me. And that's how I define a life which I want to live myself and my loved ones and anyone I want to get in touch.
And I find it's also very interesting if we listen to a lot of speakers, podcasts, and even some science, reading some scientific studies that show that we generally are happier when we do things for other people. And they've done studies of, here you can have, $50 for yourself or $50 to go buy something for somebody or give it to them. And when we buy something for ourselves, we're happy very briefly. It doesn't last very long. But when we do something for somebody else, that happiness can last days or weeks or even longer. And we feel better about doing things for other people.
Very true. Very true.
So I'm curious about the number of people that you want to help. Why is it 15,100?
Thank you. I knew that question is coming whenever I share that number, and I've written that in the book as well. See, 15th, I have thought this number very thoughtfully, very, very thoughtfully, that when we talk about fulfillment, as you mentioned, it's not about just one-time happiness. Mm-hmm. It's just not that, we can be happy once or every while that, yeah, I bought this one, I do this, I share this. That makes us happy for some moments, for some days, for some weeks. However, when I talk about fulfillment, it's about sustainable fulfillment, sustainable happiness. And what does that mean is that we need to actively work with people, actively have enough time, resources, so that we can actively work with people where we can answer the questions, we can provide the environment, we can provide the resources, the tools, the procedures, the systems, the templates, whatever it needs. As you mentioned earlier, that people get happy for a small amount of time by doing one act. And then they sometimes doubt as well that, am I doing the right thing here? Because the environment gives you both views always. And like whether you talk about any time in the era, you will always have two views. Now, which one do you listen to? Which one do you align yourself to? And we all need that environment where we can sustain this kind act we're talking about, the giving values. And this is why when I look at, if I could impact 100 people, if I could coach 100 people in my life and be active with them, available with them, so that they can book my time whenever they need it. And if those 100 people then could solve question answers, coach them, guide next 100 people, I would have actively impacted then 10,000, because I would be looking at the numbers, the stats that, yep. And then similarly, if every person looks at 100, so this way we've done 10,000 in my end. And now we also want to include that without the support of your people in life circle, which is the friends, community, your family, especially our parents, because our parents are often forgotten in our current responsibilities. And I wanted to remind that our obligation to our parents is important. And including them within our fulfillment, that makes us 15,100.
Excellent. Yeah. And it probably will be even more than that because of that ripple effect of even those who help more and more. We don't really realize the effects that we have on people. And I remember this was a few years ago now. I was out one night with a friend and ran into somebody that I used to work with. And I felt terrible because I didn't recognize the person. And she said, "Oh yeah, we used to work together here," and told me her name. And I mean, this was going back probably 20, close to 20 years prior to. And I said, like, "I'm so sorry. I don't remember you." And I felt horrible. And she's like, "I remember you. And I remember at the time I had a car and a car lease. I was like maybe 18 or so at the time. And I remember saying, or she remembers anyway, me saying, never lease a car. If you can, always buy one. The lease payments, the everything, it's not worth it." And it was just conversation that we had when I was around 18. I mean, obviously, I didn't really pay any attention to it. And she said that however the conversation went, she's like, it stuck. She's like, "I've never leased a car. I've always bought it. Like, you made such an impression on me." And I would just thought, like, it was conversation about leasing a car. And I mean, I was
Yeah.
18 at the time. And it made an effect. And she remembered it. And I didn't. And so we never really know the effects that every conversation. Another one I had, I was at a friend's house talking with her, and she had other friends over that I didn't know, but I had just come back from running a marathon. And so I was still all excited about it. I'm like, "Oh yeah, ran a marathon, got my medal, blah, 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 whatever." Again, just kind of basic conversation. And several months later, she said to me, "Remember my friends that were over at this time?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember." She said, "Well, the way you were talking about running a marathon, you inspired them so much that they ran their first marathon and they qualified for Boston Marathon." I was like, "Oh my God, that's incredible." And it was just a conversation of, I was excited that I ran a marathon and I didn't qualify for anything. Like, I just was happy to finish and do it. And so we really never know. But when she told me that, those things made me feel good because I was like,
That's
wow,
it.
I made impressions on people's lives without really even trying, but knowing, like, especially with the Boston one, I'm like, wow, they trained, and it's like it's a healthy, obviously the exercise, diet, things or whatever that they needed to do, and qualified for Boston. And I just thought, like, that was incredible that they thought of doing that just through conversation that I was having, which then in turn, after the fact later, made me feel good. But those are only the things that we know about, right? There's other ripple effects, like with the marathon one, or even leasing a car. How many other people did they talk to, or get not to lease a car and get into those payments, or to get healthier and maybe run a 10K or a half marathon, or with that had that ripple effect for, we'll never know how far those ripple effects go, and make changes and help other people live happier, more fulfilled lives as well.
Your story. Thank you for sharing that. And that's true. It happens, and this is why, we just, it's all about sharing the message. And everyone at different life, different time, they resonate with something else. And it happens to us as well. we hear something that, that made sense. Oh, he said that. And 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 that's what those moments of awareness, learnings that we implement. Even otherwise you keep telling me every day something I may not able to implement it. But when I resonate with something, your story and that time in my life, if they connect, if they align, oh, that's what Sally said. Oh, now I understand that. And we see this moment, we feel this moment many times if we keep ourselves, open to.
And so you're now spending most of your time in Australia, you're living there, your family is still in India. I don't really like to use the word balance because I know life is never like a 50-50 balance. And I think when we use it, people like they think it's a 50 kind of 50 balance, and nothing ever really is. But how do you kind of balance your time in Australia with your work and everything you have going on there, but still keeping that connection with your family back home as well? Because as a lot of the listeners and people watching are either thinking about moving abroad, already have moved abroad, and there are some of those concerns about still, feeling good, seeing family and friends, connecting with them, because that's also part of having that fulfilled life is having that connection. And kind of keeping that when we are living in different countries.
Thank you. Very, very, important question, especially for people who are either making the decision now to move to a different country and uh, or are living in a different country than how we and our, you know, to share that how I feel is. See, when I made that decision to come to Australia, it was like kind of a. I had the courage because my family, my parents, always gave me the freedom because they never. You see, right now I can say that I studied so many things and I've read and I've listened to the thought leaders, but they didn't have neither this schooling, neither those connections, neither those resources. What I have, I'm grateful for that. But they had this naturally to give the freedom to their kids like myself, and so that I could create my own life without any borders, without any limitations. And and this is what, as a parent, when we see if we can create that life and let them create their own life. So that's you don't feel a kind of a that limitation. Oh, I need to be with them all the time or not. So that made my decision a lot easier. So that's now coming back to how do I still keep connected? My spouse, my kid, they live in Australia. That's great. That live with me, and now my mom still lives in India, and my other friends, even I've got team as well, it's in India. Now with resources, it makes again life easier. We can do now Zoom, WhatsApp call, all those things now, and I now fly often as well. That uh, again, wherever, whenever I'm needed to, or or an event or just some time. A lot of time also I am able to invite them here because we can spend that quality time together. Uh, now I but a bigger picture when you look at if you know that this connection is important, whether it's a parent, whether it's a friend, whether it's a community, whether your family, then you align your activities, behaviors, habits that okay, we will meet this time every week. We'll spend this quality time, once a month. So that way you are even more connected then. Sometime otherwise you just spend your life and you never talked about, never had that time where you could understand each other. So both ways good. So you can create your life connections wherever you are. You can find the time. And so I just, I just live that way, so that um, I keep the connection and at the same time have the freedom of the relationships as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's, with technology there's so many ways. So I myself, I usually go back to Canada about once a year. The last couple of years it's been a little bit more than that. When I lived in Costa Rica years ago, I'd have family and friends that, they came down there and would visit. It was easier. Now being in Europe, it's a little bit further and harder, but I still go back. And as you said, with technology, it's easier. And we think of too what we would do on, I think, because just a few days ago, I think it was like a Friday night or something, and I wasn't going out. I was just doing some work, and my friend from Canada called me and we ended up video chatting for about 4 hours on the phone, 4.5 hours. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, that it's forever. But then I just thought, well, no, it would be no different if I was in Calgary and on a Friday night for us to get together and either go to her house or go out and have drinks or go for dinner or whatever to spend that amount of time. It's not exactly the same because we're not physically together, but being on the video call, I don't feel like I'm gone very much, because we have that connection. And, it's not always that long. Lots of times chats are a lot shorter, but it happens sometimes. And we just connect and catch up. And it really does help. I think with the video calls for people who may be feeling a little bit homesick, a little bit worried about missing out on that connection because you see each other, and as you said, you schedule it if you need to, that once a week you check in, you catch up, you see each other, or you can even do, we use WhatsApp quite a bit in Europe, so whatever,
Yeah.
texting to just send a quick little message every few days or every weekend. I've got a friend of mine, almost every kind of Thursday, Friday, he sends me a message, how are you? Have a great weekend. Right. And
That's
it's
it.
just
Yeah,
those little things to keep kind of connected, and to keep in touch.
that's true. And one thing I'll say here, Sally, you're a beautiful storyteller. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your stories. It's beautiful.
Well, I think too, it's, story, it's experiences, right? And
Yeah.
they're my experiences. And so people can know, what could happen because they're my experiences, and I want to share them. And I always, I always try to look for the silver lining in things. And, I have lots of stories that aren't great, but when we can find those silver linings, or find, sometimes because we can't look forward, we don't know, right? And so not that long ago, I am no longer working with a company that I was working with, and part of me was kind of like, "Ah, it kind of sucks," but I wasn't really disappointed about it. And then there was another part of my brain that said, maybe you're going to look back on this and say that needed to happen, because that's going to be the turning point that when that door closed made you do what I'm doing now, working towards. And then when I look back, I could say, I'm so glad that happened, because that needed to happen for other things to happen. So even though at the moment I was kind of like, oh, it kind of sucks. But then I think, you know what? Maybe that's what it needs to be.
I share you my now very recent realization on this particular, and I even uh, that about setbacks, failures. When I looked at, if we do not have those moments, we're talking about setbacks and failures, challenges. There is no story. If there's no low moment and you're not overcoming a challenge, there's no story. Life is a story. There's no life then. And now I see those failures as an opportunity as an integral part of my life. Without them, we are nothing. Even they may not sometime help me in my success, but my failures will definitely help in someone else's success, because they will know that, oh, he did that, I shouldn't do that.
Mhm.
It could still be an inspiration for someone, solution for someone's problem. I see them now and I welcome them. Yeah.
I do the same too in a lot of ways. So a few months ago, I held my first virtual summit. First time doing it. Um, yeah, there were some great successes with it. And there was a few things that I was like, oh, that kind of sucked, or ooh, that didn't work out as well. But then I just thought, you know what? That's okay, because I will learn from it. I will do another one.
Absolutely.
I've already made notes, what to do better, what to change, what to improve upon. And then so I know when the next one is, it's going to be better because I've already done it. It's like everything though. If we look at what didn't work, well, how do we can't improve, right? Like we didn't know how to walk. How many times did we fall down until we
That's
learned
it.
to walk or ride a bike or ice skate or like skiing or whatever it may be? We've had to do things over and over to become better. And sometimes I say to people to like try things. And if you absolutely hate it, great. If you can, if it's work wise, if you can outsource it, or like one time I took a coding course, this was years ago, and I thought, I'm going to be a coder because it's another thing that I can do. Um, Gosh, it was quite a long time ago now that I'm thinking about. But anyway, it's another thing that I can do for me to travel and be abroad and everything. And so I went on to, it was Coursera.org. They're a great company. They've got all kinds of courses, and I took a coding course. Well, I very quickly realized I do not like coding at all, and it was not going to be for me. But I'm still glad I did it. I finished it because fast forward now, like I do some website stuff, like very basic, and it's a lot different now. I don't do a lot of coding, but sometimes there's bits of code to add or change or edit that I can do very, very basic stuff. But I can go in and do it. And if I'm not getting it, I'm smart enough to know to hire somebody else to do it because it's not something I want to do. And so sometimes knowing what we don't want or don't like is just as important in knowing what we do. And that can pertain to work wise, that can pertain to even relationships. You know, if you're with somebody, friends, family, colleagues, and they do things that you just don't enjoy doing, but they love it, then it's like, okay, well, I don't like to do that, or I've tried, great, but it's not my thing. So we just don't spend time doing those things that we don't enjoy doing.
That's true. And I mean, you're 100% right. You only find out. There are two ways to find out. One is if you are really self-aware, which is again, it takes practice, and then second thing is just try out, and there's no harm. It just you'll find out. Those
Right.
experiences are important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I say that to people too when they think about moving abroad. And because I've lived in 5 different countries, and I don't recommend people to always do it the way I do it, but I'm single, so it's very easy for me to move and do things because it's just me. Obviously, very different if you have a family and kids, because it's a bigger picture to kind of look at. But I always say to people, first go to the country, check it out, check out a few cities or towns, whatever you like, because different areas will give you a different vibe and energy and feeling. So you do that. And let's say a person goes and they go there, but then they realize that they don't like it. I always say, but that's okay because you're not stuck, right? You can go again. And I'm not saying that like I've lived in 5 different countries and I've liked them all. And there's pros and cons to every single one. There is no perfect country in the world. Like there's always going to be things that you love and things that you don't really like. But that's the way it is. But we're also never stuck, right? We can always move again, or you can say, we're going to try it for a year and see how it goes or what we think, and then make a decision from there. It's not so much of, well, if I move abroad, then that's it. I'm done. Like you're not. You can move again, or you can, maybe rent out your place, put your stuff in storage, kind of have that as a bit of a safety blanket just in case, and then go and see and try. And if that place doesn't work and you really just don't want to go back, try another place and see how it goes. But just give yourself that time and try, because we don't know. And I can say so many things about all the countries that I've lived in, but those were my experiences. And just because I experienced that and maybe I loved something or didn't like something doesn't mean that somebody else will. I mean, if we look at the world, so many expats move from so many countries to different countries, and they have a variety of reasons why. And just because somebody's had a great experience and they love that country, and they could be your friend. I was talking with a girl on one of the previous podcasts from Dubai. She moved there to Dubai with some friends, and her friends ended up moving back. I think it was from Norway or Sweden. I can't really remember now. But her friends moved back because she just said Dubai wasn't for them. We love it here.
Yeah.
Like, we're great. And she's there with her family and her kids. And she's like, we love it here. But my friends didn't like it. It wasn't for them. So they moved back. And so we have to realize when we're looking at posts and we're reading things and stuff like that, that yes, it's good to recognize that that's somebody's experience. And whether that experience is good or bad, that's their experience. And it doesn't mean it's going to be your experience.
Oh, beautiful, beautifully presented, Sally. And now, while we're talking on that particular subject, how about I share this if I had to make a decision myself again about this, whether should I move out, should I change my life, and I share it through the 7-step fulfillment system. See, it'll be a little bit more organized after like 20 years now. If I have to make this decision, I would love to make this one now. If my son will listen to this conversation, then he would have that guidance in future, that obviously if he has all the freedom to create his own life. So I will take this opportunity now while you touch this topic. All right. So see, 7 steps are, the very first step is celebrate and be grateful. So in this step, we emphasize on that. What are those 7 things you're grateful for wherever you are, in whatever condition, in whatever situation you are, in whatever country you are? What are those 7 things you're grateful for? There are always 7 things you can find. When I asked this question to my son, who was last year, he was 8-year-old then, it's 9 now, and he said, school, life, food, house, parents. Then he got cheeky, gifts, friends. So he could just name these 7 things, which we can find any of those 7 things, like again, spouse, parents, kids, all those big things. We always can be grateful. That's a start. Number 2 is, and when I relate to that question, is wherever you are, you can find, because you start from there, not from, oh, my life is bad here, that's why I want to move, all those things. You don't start here. We'll talk about it next steps, and I'll take you there. Number 2 is align your fulfillment vision. Why is it important? Because you want to make sure your activities, habits, goals are all aligned with your purpose. Now, when you take life in context, then it's a life purpose. But when we're talking here, just moving abroad is a purpose. So what is the purpose behind that? Why do you want to move? Right? And what activities, what behavior, what habits would lead you there? So I characterize, in this fulfillment vision, that the whole vision is in 10 elements. One is activity, behavior, habits, beliefs, goals, values, character, purpose, principles, environment. And specifically when we're talking here, moving different country, different location, environment is one of the bigger factor there. What kind of environment is in India? What environment is in Australia? When I say environment, it's not just the air and pollution. It's about the society, the culture, what community values are there. So once we understand that bigger picture, it makes our life easier, fulfilling wherever we want to move to. It's a bigger decision. Number 3 is then know your win. And in this step, we go deep in. We really go deep in understanding, and I break them into 6 elements. That your fulfillment is broken into the 6 elements, which are your brand, your money, time, skill, health, and experience. When we say brand, it's not just a logo here. Brand means that what you stand for. What do you want to be remembered for? What are your values? What's your purpose? Money we talk about is the financial freedom. How much money do you need? Time. How would you like to spend your 168 hours, as we talked earlier? Whether you're living together or different countries, how would you like to spend that? What kind of skill do you want to practice? And serve someone with that skill. How would you keep up your health? In different countries have different health consequences. What kind of experiences would you like to collect? Different places, different experiences. Once you understand, this is where there are 5 life circles. So 6 needs, 5 life circles. When we want to design our life, it's about knowing your win, which is you, then your family. What are their goals? Your business, career, employment. Like people in those, or opportunities on those circles. Your friends and community, we're talking, extended families. And your spiritual, non-spiritual life cycle, that also changes with the country. So when you design these 30 cells, I know it's a lot of work when you think this way, but think about you moving out, you're leaving your friends, family, connections. For how many years you will live? Maybe then your children will live there as well. You're creating a new life for yourself and other people. This step helps you define, first of all, that what do you want, and then you see which country, which is the step 4. Once you understand what do you want, now you go step 4 is knowing your client's win. And when I say client, means in this paradigm, every other person is a client. And I purposely name it client because we are, from the environment, we learn that paying client is important. Non-paying, okay. Right?
Right.
We spend 4 hours, 8 hours, 20 hours with the client, or 40 hours a week with the client, that's good. But when we spend 2 hours with a kid playing, or feel guilty about it, oh, why did I spend 2 hours there? If we spend 2 hours with the friends helping them, oh, why did I spend 2 hours there? Oh, we lost how many $100? Right? So therefore, everyone is a client in this paradigm, receiver and a giver, supplier and a client relationship. To my kid, to my spouse, to my friends, to my parents, supplier and client relationship. And whenever we want to understand what their win look like, we did that exercise in step 3. Now we're doing for step 4 now we're understanding what does their win look like. With curiosity, not judgmental. With empathy, not interrogative. Once we really want to understand what does a win look like for my spouse? What does it win look like for my mom if I'm moving? And the people who are coming with me, what do they want? What kind of a life they want? So once we understand that, we understand those pain, their problems they might have when I move out, or the opportunities that I could create when I go out. What is the positive impact of those opportunities? And what are the negative impact of those? What are the consequences? If I understand that, then I go step 5. I create a solution. I propose to the people who are connected with me, take their agreement that is it okay if I go? Is that your win as well? Yes, I've looked after my win. Now understood your win. Is it your win as well? Take on that agreement. Look at which country is, as you mentioned earlier, which country is the right country now when I understand that this is the culture I want to be in. These are the values I want to practice. This is a business I want to do. This is something I can create. This is the invention I want to do, and that environment, that community can support me in that. There must be something that you want to create, something that you want to see. And then when we go that way, then chances are we've done our research, we've been there, we understand there, and then you feel like, yeah, this is the place I wanted to be here. And if that other place is not, the right place, because you will know why is it not right, not because someone else is saying that. Because as you said, every country will have their pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
Which one aligns with yours? Once we made that agreement, in step 6, we go, we deliver. We do all the forms, we do all the applications, we do all is necessary. We pack the bags, we project manage the whole thing with the value of integrity, resourcefulness, innovation. We will create the solutions because the challenges will come when we move to the place. We won't get our favorite food maybe the day one. We may not get all the luxuries what we want, which we had when we move to the new place. And that's what we do in step 6. We deliver with excellence. How would I create experiences for the people who are coming with me? Because I wanted to be here first. What about their schooling? What about their business, their jobs? And number 7 is achieve with joy.
Nice.
Right now you have made a decision. You have reached there now. Now you got to achieve. And in this one, we have 4 elements on that. Number 1 is celebrate. Celebrate that you achieved it. Celebrate the outcome. Whatever the goals you achieved, celebrate that. Reflect on the learnings, as you mentioned earlier. In this step, we reflect on, because not all the time we'll achieve all the goals. And that's the life.
Right.
So we reflect on those and we note down for the next time, for our success, for someone else's success. We receive the feedback from the people which fulfills the giver. Preparing the environment, creating the environment, giving them the space to say whatever they want to say. Oh, I didn't like to be here. So your spouse could say that, your kid could say that, oh, I'm missing my friends. You give them the room to share what they feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And you could give the feedback in a way that fulfills them. And how can they see the life differently here? So when you see it from step 1 to step 7, it's a universal system. You can create the solution. You can get unstuck.
Right.
You can find a path. You can look at what's the next step. You can make decisions which are aligned with your fulfillment and your loved one's fulfillment. And if I was like 20 years ago, I'm very grateful that I'm in Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia. I wouldn't even move anywhere. I'm fortunate. I'm the lucky one. But
Yeah, it's mm-hmm.
before that, I lived in few cities in India, which I didn't like it. And I, so, but, now I know it, where to live, where to spend my life and how to live. Yeah. Again, thank you for your time and patience. I really, I'm grateful.
It's great. And those 7 steps, can be used for more than just moving abroad, right? It's for a fulfilled life. So if people, even it could be even just moving cities, could be moving states, be changing jobs. It could be used for a number of things to go through those steps to see if they're going in the right direction that fulfills each person. Because as you said, each of our needs, desires, wants, beliefs, all of those are so individual and so different that what we choose to do needs to work for us, and then also be aware of who else it's going to affect, how it's going to affect them, and what ways that we can kind of mitigate it and make it as smooth and easy as possible. It's not everything's going to be easy, but when we try to think of all the things that could happen and the way that people are going to feel and think and stuff, we can kind of make those necessary steps ahead of time, saying, okay, well, I'm going to make sure I connect with you once a week or once a month. I am going to do my best to come back home twice a year, maybe once a year, or I'll come once a year, you come visit me once a year, or whatever it may be for the situation involved. So I think that that's a great book. And where, if people wanted to get your book, where can they get your book and how can they connect with you?
See, my website is mukeshbajaj.com.au. It's building up. It's a new website. I was having a next gen accounting website, but this is the book is releasing on 6th of November, and we are uploading like free resources, how to guides, what should I do guides as well, that I'm in this situation. What should I do? So with that 7 steps, we preparing that so that the audience and viewers can see, oh, this situation is similar to me. And oh, yeah. So, yeah, lots of resources there we are building and creating as we speak. So book launch is 6th of November. You can connect me on Facebook, Instagram. Just connect. And even if you say that global citizen, I will send you my selection of how-to guides. That's a bonus.
Nice. Wow. Well, thank you very much. And we will make sure that we have all the links in the show notes to make it easy for everybody to connect with you and get your book when it's available. And so I just want to say thank you very much for your time. I know our listeners got a lot of valuable information.